Alright, so today's video we're going to start installing our drive system, all our gears and everything on the side of the mower. Now previous video we've already installed this gear onto the side of our reel. So basically previous video we adjusted our reel down to our bed knife. We want to install that. Before we do that, basically we don't want to knock our reel out of position. So that's already on, so that's excellent. So the rest of the gears need to go on. Basically there's a little bit of a process that needs to happen before we can start bolting it onto the side of the mower. Now with that said, we just need to press a couple of bearings into various gears, and we need to glue our drive cork onto our intermediate clutch. So a little bit of a process. It probably does take 24 hours basically because you're waiting for the glue to dry in your cork. But let's crack on. We'll install our bearings. We'll press them into our gears. There's not too much to sort of point out. Well, actually, there's one thing that needs to point out. So this big gear gets a bearing pressed in here. Now, this bearing also gets a collar pressed in the middle of the bearing. This one here. So when you do that, just make sure that that collar goes on the outside of the gear. So you'll see the other side of this gear is where the clutch cork will grab onto. Basically, we want this collar on the outside of that. If you install it the other way, it's not the end of the world. You just will need to press that out and put it on the correct side. So do it right the first time, you won't need to do that. So let's crack on. Let's just press our bearings in. Once we've got our bearings in, we'll glue our clutch cork on. So let's crack on with that. Okay, so now we've got that bearing pressed in. If you hold the center and spin it, you'll see that it sort of runs true. So that's exactly what we want. When you know, one way to tell when that bearing's all the way pressed in is to look on the other side and just make sure that the bearing is sitting all the way down on that metal collar. So once it's all the way down there, all the way around, you know that you've pushed that bearing in basically as far as it will go, and that's how that bearing should sit. So now we've done that, we'll push our collar in, and now our collar just goes into the center of that bearing. Exactly the same deal, guys. I'll put it on there and I'll tap that down with a hammer. When I do this, I also spray a bit of like WD-40 or CRC or something. Yeah, basically that just makes things sort of slide together properly, or easier. So yeah, I don't just sort of metal on metal and start making friction and start bending things out of shape. I do it and I take my time, and if it does get jammed or something, I'll press it back out and start again. Yeah, so just be careful when you do this sort of stuff is all I'm trying to get at. Okay, so we've got that pressed in now. Bearing still operating correctly, spinning just as it should, so we haven't damaged anything, so that's good. So next step is to press the bearing into the other half of our intermediate drive clutch. So we'll press that in. Once we press that in, we'll push that onto the bracket. And then that's how that piece will stay, and we'll glue our clutch cork on there. So let's do that. Okay, so now we've pressed our bearing in, we've pressed our gear onto the intermediate clutch bracket. As you can see, it spins freely. Next step I'm going to do is glue our clutch cork onto there. Now what I like to use is Selly's Quickie Grip. So this one here is water-based contact adhesive. So I've used this exact tube for 5+ mowers now. Not one time have I had it fail on me. So it does say on the packet when you get it that it's suitable for rubber and metal. Now other people use different types of glues. This is just the one that I use. I'm not sponsored by Selly's or anything. It's just the one I use. So basically, to apply this, we want to apply that onto our steel and onto the rubber. We want to let that basically dry until it's touch tacky. It becomes real tacky when you touch it. At that point, we want to get our rubber and our glue together and go glue to glue, like so. And once we've got that glued on there, I generally do this. So you do this at your own risk, because if you have any overspill of glue, you'll end up gluing these two parts together. You don't want to do that. However, I've done this many times and I've never had that issue. Just make sure that your glue is not going everywhere. Make sure you clean your product before you do this. So I would sit these on top of each other like that, and then I will go and apply some weight on top of this and let the glue dry. So basically, by applying the weight, it sort of evenly disperses the weight across the cork, and then you end up with a nice solid glued joint. So watch along. Okay, so it's probably been 15 or 20 minutes now, and as you can see that the glue has sort of dried considerably. It's almost starting to completely dry and go clear. So this glue will dry clear, so if you've got a little bit of over spillage, it's not a big concern, it'll just dry clear. But basically, before it's completely clear, we want to stick these two together, and basically you more or less have one shot at doing this to get it right. So as soon as you touch these together, it's going to be incredibly hard to reposition your cork. So take your time, make sure you get it in the right spot. It's not the end of the world if you do put it in the wrong spot. Worst case, like a cork costs, I don't know what a cork costs, maybe $5. If you get it wrong, not the end of the world, just clean it off, go again. But this is pretty crucial, so watch along. Okay, so we've got the cork on there. You can pretty well see that it's not moving. I did get a small amount of glue on top of this, which is not good. You don't want glue on top of it. Hopefully that'll just burn away and not pull out a whole chunk of cork. But what I'm going to do now is get the other half of the clutch. I'm going to put that on top, just like so, and now I'm going to apply some weight on there and we're going to wait 24 hours for that glue to fully set. So let's do that. I've got a couple of batteries here, but something like a brick, something with weight. It doesn't need to be anything special, but something with weight, put on top and just leave it. Just like so. So I'll see you tomorrow. All right. So it's been a week. I never actually ended up getting back into the shed. So it's been now 1 week that this has been sitting with weights on top of it. So our glue should well and truly be dried. I'll pop this off. Hopefully it hasn't glued together. Right. So cork's now glued on. No damage to the cork anywhere. So that's good. So that's perfect. Other half, we can pop that off and we'll pop that aside. We'll just pop that on at the end. So now we'll start to mount all this onto the mower. And this being a 17-inch solid, we have to install this particular bracket first. So this bracket holds our clutch lever cable, but this will go up on the mower up here like so, and the reason that we need to install that now is we need this bolt. So this bolt's actually welded onto this bracket, but we need this bolt to protrude through the side of the mower, and that will actually hold the bracket for our intermediate clutch. So I'll quickly install that on the mower. Once I've got that up there, we'll continue putting the gears on, and we're almost done. So okay, so we've got our bracket up. Now we've got our bracket up, I am going to install the Woodruff key, which will sit in our rear roller shaft. Once the Woodruff key's in there, we will slip on the rear roller gear. You need to put this on first because it actually sits behind our intermediate clutch. So this will be the first one that goes on. Okay, so rear roller gear's on now. You just did notice I just used a bit of a rattle gun to zip up the tightness of that nut. If you do it by hand, it actually spins the shaft of the rear roller. You can't really get a great sort of deal of torque on it. So rattle gun's very good for that. And also note that I'm putting moly grease on all my threads. So just a little bit of anti-seize goes a long way. So anyway, continuing on, we'll mount up our intermediate clutch now. So when you're doing this, make sure you mount this the correct way. You could obviously mount it that way or that way. So the correct way is like this. So basically that aligns the gear behind our clutch cork here. The gear should align above our rear roller gear. So pop it on like that. So we will be using the bolt from the bracket for the 17-inch solid. If you have a twin rail, I believe it's just simply a bolt that you need to put through there. And then the other end, we've got a bolt that slips into this slot here. So this slot allows us to alter the position of our clutch, and in altering the position, it actually applies tension to our chains once we've got some chains on there. So I'll quickly stick that up there. Obviously there's no chains on yet, so it's not really crucial to get it in the correct position just yet. We'll adjust the position of this once we put our chains on, but chains will be one of the last things to go on. So. Alright, so intermediate clutch is now installed. As you saw, just a couple of bolts. I've just done them up finger tight. That'll allow me to get the chains on, and we'll be able to adjust the chains accordingly. One more gear that is an optional gear. So I've purchased an upgrade from mopartsoz.com.au, and this is a chain tensioner for a 17 or a solid 45. So if you had a twin rail, this would look slightly different, and I think you'd find you'd have a slot here, but this being a solid model, this is the small little bracket that's required. So back in the day, these used to be like a nylon, like a really hard plastic sphere, I suppose, and it used to be in one position. It actually wouldn't turn like this. So this upgrade from George at Moparts Oz is an excellent upgrade. I put them on all my mowers, and it creates the chain. One, it allows it to run a lot smoother, and I believe it's also a lot easier to adjust the chain tension. So I'll quickly install this. Again, this being a 17-inch solid model, we've got to install this bracket. If you have a twin rail, you will find that this bracket is already welded onto the side of your frame. This bracket simply just holds our side cover on. So I'll quickly install this. Okay, we've got that installed. Again, I've just done that finger tight. That will need adjusting after we install the chain on the side. So that is basically as far as we can go. We can't install our PTO gear just yet. Obviously, we don't have a PTO shaft sticking through this hole up here. Now this particular mower, I'm actually doing a little bit different. I'm actually going to install a centrifugal clutch. Now, because it's a centrifugal clutch, it needs to be installed onto the side of the mower. So that all needs to happen at the same time. While that's happening, the shaft will get installed as well. So that'll be the next video, but for this video, that's where we're going to stop it. And basically, we're moving along quite quick. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope you liking the content. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.